Good afternoon, Miss Candia. I am GNG Escarda and I am going to discuss the cognitive developments of infants and toddlers. So when we say cognitive development on infancy, this refers to the development in a way a baby thinks. So cognitive from the word cognition, so it has something to do with the brains. So there are different cognitive activities such as paying attention and learning or remembering how to talk. So, in the previous discussion, we've learned that Jean Piaget proposes four stages of cognitive development. The first one is we have the sensory motor stage. Second is the pre-operational stage. Third one is the concrete operational stage. And the fourth is the formal operational stage. So, let's focus on the sensory motor stage in which the cognitive developments of infants and toddlers falls off. So, in the sensory-motor stage, or the first stage of cognitive development, Piaget says that a child learns from the world through his or her senses. And these stages is divided into six sub-stages, where we have simple reflexes, first habits and primary circular reaction phase as the second. The third one is the secondary circular reaction phase. Fourth is the coordination of reaction stage, secondary circular. Five is tertiary circular reactions, novelty and curiosity. And the last one is the internalization of schemes. Now let's discuss the first substage of sensory motor stage, or what we call the simple reflexes. So this stage covers from birth to 6 weeks. So at this stage, Jean Piaget said that we can found the three primary reflexes. So the first one is sucking of an object in the mouth. Second is following moving or interesting objects with the eyes. And three is closing the hand on if an object touches or makes contacts with the palm, or what we call as the palmar gasp. So, if makabantay mo, ay we all know nga, ang baby is makasurvive through sucking sa chest sa ilang mother or using a feeding bottle para makaget sila og nutrition. Then, if kuansad ka nang about sad sa kanang kanang makabantay mo, if na ay makita ng bata interesting para sa ilang mata kay dayog kung asa ganito ang nga butang is adto sa ilang pananaw, then if hikapon nimo ang ilang kamot, like automatic na siya nga mo close kay kanang those are involuntary actions nga himuon sa usa ka bata. So the second one is the first habits and primary circular reaction phase. So it covers from the 6 weeks to the 4 months. So there are two types of scheme that is expected to learn at this stage, or the substage. First one is the habits or the reflex, and the second one is the primary circular reaction. So when we say habits or reflex, kanang ang nabantayan ni Jean Piaget at this stage is that ang most common sa reflex nga magamit sa bata is that looking and seeing, kay kanang mga kana laging magsigi og tan-aw, magsigi og sack in theirs for the survival. Then primary, it is called primary kay nakafocus lang siya sa body sa bata. Then circular reactions because it is a repeated actions, like for example kanang sucking of the thumb. So pero na sila magsip-sip sa ilang kamot kay they find pleasure. So di ba, so wala sila ilang gigamit, hindi ilang ang kamot. So part sa body sa bata, at the same time repeated siya kay ginahan man kayo ang bata kay they find it pleasurable. The next one is the secondary circular reaction phase. So at this stage, Piaget observed that there are three new abilities that occurs. So the first one is intentional grasping for the desired object. So if the earlier substages is ang mga bata is mo grasp sila as long as bisag unsa na butang na mo touch sa palm sa ilaha, karon is at this stage kanang kung unsa ang ilang ginahan mao na jud na ilang kuptan. Then the second one is the secondary circular reaction. So secondary circular, it's because repeated actions that involves external objects, like for example ang dal. Ang dal is naadira na siya, so sipaon sa bata. So that's the secondary circular niya. Ilan sa itong gibalik og sipa kay ginahan siya kay nganong ni move ang dal. Then the third one is the differentiation between ends and means. So this is the cause and effect. So at this stage kay kana ganing makaunaw na ang bata nga kanang nganong nilihok man to ang dal pag sipa nako, di ba? Kana ganing makaunaw na sila nga kung unsa ang ilang gibuhat unsa di ang buhaton para mao ni ang effect nga mogawas. The fourth one is the coordination of reaction stage secondary circular that covers from the 8 to 12 months. So at this stage is associated primarily with the development of logic under differentiation of between ends and means. So dali na mag-start na ang logic or the good reasoning of a child where ano na siya nga basin day na nilihok to ang dal kay nasipa man gud ako or nabutangan ako og force. Then the fifth one is the tertiary circular reactions, novelty, and curiosity. So Piaget at this juncture called the child or the children as the little scientist kay diri nga point is if makabantay ta nga experiment ang bata, then they will be amazed sa kung unsa ang mga properties sa usa ka butang. So this covers from the 12 to 18 months. Like for example, ang diri sa given na bukay kuan yanang nasya sa iyang crib, then naay box dito karon iyang gitagak ang box, then iyang gipunit, but then wala siya kaabot, ay only the index finger ang nakakuan sa kanang naabot niya so iyang gipull through her index finger, iyang gipull, but then na drop and iya na sang gipull. So mura gana siya na namaze ang bata nga la unsa din ni nako nga para ma-pull nila ko ang kanang kuan, ma-pull nila ko ang object nga kanang kuan. So iyang mura siya kanang nakuan nga the experiment of falling backs kay kanang unsa may ang result ato nganong wala man to niya nakuha. The sixth or the last substage is what we called internalization of schemes from 18 to 24 months or the 2 years old. So at this stage, it is the beginning of insight or true creativity in the passage of the pre-operational stage. So at this stage is kanang makabantay unsa ka creative ang bata. Like for example, katong given sa book, ablihan ni ang door, but then di siya kaabli kay nagkupot siya og mga grass sa iyang kamot. So ang iyang gibuhat is gibutang niya ang grass. So gitry niya og abli kay naka-realize mo siya nga puno man iyang kamot so di siya kaabli. So mo to iyang gibutang, gitry niya og abli karon di gapon niya maabli kay ang grass is nakaali. So iyang gibalhin ang grass nga para inag-abli niya is dili siya ali sa door. Or makana kita ng bright aning mga bata ay kay kanang at this stage if makabantay mo nga kanang if naay kabuton din dili makabot kay manguha og kuhit. So that's the internalization of scheme. So by the end of the sensory motor period, a child is expected to develop an object permanence. So an object permanence is the understanding that that an object still exists even if a child cannot see, hear, or feel the object. Like for example, if kanataguan ang favorite teddy bear sa bata, at first is muhilak man ang bata kay nawa ang teddy. But then later on, as the child grows older, makarealize ang bata nga bisan pag wala niya nakita yung teddy bear kay bawo siya nga naarad yapon yung teddy bear is wala or wala nawala. Learning and remembering. So maka-remember pag ang bata, yes. But then, as we grow older, all of us experience what we call as infantile amnesia or kanang the inability to recall the events that happened when we are very young. So, swertihan na lang daw if makainomdom pa ka sa events sa imong life, mas dako na ka, kanang makainomdom pa ka sa events sa imong life before you turn 5 years old. But then, if tragic nga event, before pa ka nag-5, then ay tragic event na itabo sa imong life, you can remember that one. Like for example, a child loses one of his or her parent during 3 years old. So, mahinumduman na sa bata nga pag 3 niya na matay ang usa sa iyang ginikanan. Then, the language development. So, infants appear to be programmed to tune in their linguistic environment with a specific goal to acquire knowledge. So, ang bata is kuha na siya kanang naana gani siya kanang ability to learn the language nga naa sa iyang environment. So there are stages in producing language. So the first one is the cooing or kanang this is largely from making sounds from the vowel sounds, and the bubbling, the consonant and vowel sounds, the one word utterances, Like if mo ana ang bata og mama, so that's one word. Then the two-word utterances or the telegraphic speech, and the basic adult sentence as the fifth one rather, and the last stage in producing a language. When we say hollow phrases, so these are the one-word utterances of infants to convey intentions, desires, and demands. Like for example, mo ana ang bata, mama. So, if mama ang isulti sa bata, we know nga he or she needs something from his or her mother. Then the next one is the overextension error. So, if for example, makakita ang bata nga og ero, four-legged animal. So, ero, kabaw siya nga ero to. The next time that he or she will see a four-legged animals, automatic nga mo na siya nga iro to. It's because limited ang knowledge sa bata. Telegraphic speech, the two-word or three-word utterances with rudimentary syntax but with articles and prepositions missing. So, 2 to 3 words utterances sa bata but kanang like for example mo ana ang bata nga mama eat. So, ang buto sa bot na bata is nang siya pagkaon. Or like katong sa akong I have a cousin, atong bata pa siya. Then na siya ana if mag-cellphone ko. Ate, cellphone? So, ang iya pasabot ato is mo borrow siya cellphone. Then mukalit na siya ana, mo na sana siya nga. Ate, chuchu TV. So, ang yara pasabot is mutan-aw sa chuchu TV sa akong cellphone manghulam siya. So, that's the telegraphic speech kanang limited or the 2 to 3 words utterances sa bata na isulti niya sa adult. Let's proceed to the language acquisition device or the LAD. So, Noam Chomsky claims that humans have the innate or the inborn language acquisition device. He said that this is a metamorphical organ that is responsible for the language learning. So, he said nga kanang ang kining language acquisition device is nanon siya nato like the heart nga responsible for the pumping of blood. Ang kinisang LAD kay responsible ni siya for us to learn language if unsa nga type sa language ang naa sa atong community. And then Professor Laura Ann Petito of Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire, and her colleagues conducted a study that concluded that by 5 months of age, babies are already specializing the left side of the brains for language, sounds, and the right side of the brain for expressing emotions. So, at this ramdaman na to nga ang left side of our brain controls the right side of our body and the right side of our brain controls the left side of the body. So, kay musulti man ta through our right side sa mouth, ang brain na to or ang brain nga nag-function ana is the left side. As a summary of what infants and toddlers can do cognitively, we have 3 domains. So when we say domains, these are the aspect for changes or growth. So the first one is the language, pre-reading, and pre-math. So these are the 3 domains. And the language is divided into 2, the expressive language and the receptive language. So let us first discuss what is a receptive language. So a receptive language is a language wherein a child or an infant learns from his or her environment through their words or through their gestures. So from 0 to 6 months. So a child watches the primary caregiver intently as he or she speaks to him or her. So usually this is the primary caregiver is the mother. So from the 7 to 12 months, a child can understand, know, and points family members when asked to do so. Like for example, hilikita mo na sa bata nga, gibibi, tudloa da bibi, if asa si mama. So, iyasan to doon if asa iyang mama. Then from 13 to 18 months, a child can now points 5 body parts of his or herself when asked to do so and follow one-step direction without need for gesture. So, hindi mo kita mo anak sa bata nga, sige bibi, asa imong head, doon sa bata yung head, asa imong nose, asa imong eyes, di ba? Mao na siya. Then, at this stage is pwede na kanang bibi, please, ani. So, mga simple lang nga mga directions nga imong ipasunod sa bata, then nga dili na ka maggamit og gesture para makasabot siya. Then from 19 to 24 months is a child can now point five name picture objects when asked to do so. So if na-chart sa balay, mana ko. Like, yeah, mauna ko buhaton sa akong mga manghod. Okay, sige ko no bi, asa man ang kuan, asa man ang box, ana. So ilasang ito do of asa ang box sa katong chart nga naa sa balay. And then the next one is the language or the expressive language. So the standard of this one is that a child can use his words and gestures to express his thoughts and feelings. So from 0 to 6 months is that magkuwing or other vocal sounds ang gamiton sa bata. Then gesture to indicate what he or she wants. Then from 7 to 12 months is that a child can now repeat sounds produced by others. So nang magsumay-sumay na ang bata, mao na siya nga says meaningful words to refer specific persons like mama for the mother or papa for the father. So na siya tawag sa iyang kuan kana mga specific nga tawo nga naa sa iyang duol or per niya makauban. Uses animal sounds to identify animals. So ang tawag niya sa iro kay aw-aw or ring is meow meow. So uses environmental sounds to identify objects or event in the environment like boom if naay thunder or dugdug. And then from 13 to 18 months is speaks in single words. So ato like makana na siya yung matawag, so that's considered as single word or hollow phrase. Then says yes and no appropriately. If nakipangutana nga answerable by yes or no, makatubag na ang bata at that time. Then uses words accompanied by gesture to indicate what he or she wants. So at this point, if kanang ano siya nga milk, ask siya milk, so ang gesture is magtudlo sa iyang milk. Then response to simple questions with single words. Then from the 19 to 24 months, a child learns to use pronouns such as I, you, and possessive pronouns like this is mine, like man ang bata. Says what he or she wants without accompanying gesture. So masulti na jud ang bata if unsa iyang ginahan nga wala na siya wala na mga hand gestures na gigamit ang bata para masabtan siya sa adult. Then attempts to converse even if he cannot be understood clearly. So at this stage is kanang ganing magpig-istorya ang bata ning tabian kay ang bata niya wala nakakasabot unsa iyang ikuan. Kasi that's part of the cognitive development sa bata nga makig-istorya siya based on of dili siya masabtan sa mga dagko. The next domain is what we call as the pre-reading or pre-math or the matching. So the standard at this point is that a child can match two identical objects, colors, shapes, and symbols. So from 7 to 12 months, a child can match two identical objects. So if makakita na siya bula, pakuan siya nga, ang duha ka bula is bula siya, so pareha siya. Then aside from that, when a child turns from 19 to 24 months, aside from maka-identify siya og pareha nga objects, is maka-identify na po siya if pareha ang pictures, like if makakita siya og duha ka mountains, bisan pa og lain-lain siya color, lain-lain siya tanong nga nakapalibot, pero kabilog gyapon ang bata nga mountains na siya. Then the next one is the pre-reading and pre-math or the rote sequencing. So the child is able to recite the alphabet and numbers in sequence. From the 19 to 24 months is makakount na ang bata with from 1 to 5, but then there are gaps in between, like kanang magunong na pang bata nga number. So that's the pre-reading and pre-math. Then another domain is the cognitive development or the attention and activity level. So at this point is that the child is able to sustain attention to modulate his activity at age expected level. So from 0 to 6 months, look steadily at the novel stimuli. So kana siya kanang mag-focus na siya if asa to ang kanang if na gani mag-move. So if kana yang gitan-aw, mag-focus na siya dira kana nga object. 7 to 12 months, experiments with new objects or toys by banging or putting them in his or her mouth. So at this stage, kanang makakuan ka sa bata nga ganing magsigig kaon or ibunal niya iyang toys kay para makita niya nga unsay mahitabo sa iyang iyang toys, if iyang kuan, iyang ibunal or unsay lasa sa iyang toys if iyang isun siyang baba. So that's from 7 to 12 months. Then looks with interest at picture objects. So malingaw na ang bata if makakita siya og picture books nga naay daghang pictures, and able to see through an entire meal without fussing. So paano ang bata ka nang makakaon na siya nga wala gani ka nang dili siya magsigi og reklamo or dili siya magsigi og kanang daghan nga distractions. And from 13 to 18 months, ma-distract ang bata sa iyang mga activities, but then if mo yun ka nga focus, so mabalik ka sa siya og focus. Then resist interruption while engaged in a play. So dili na siya kanang imong samukon is kana if na siya gibuhat niya imong samukon niya dili siya maminaw nimo. So that's from 13 to 18 months. The higher ordered mental abilities, or what we call concept formation. So this is where a child develops concepts pertaining to object constancy, space, time, quantity, seriation, and other things, and uses this as basis for understanding how materials are categorized in his or her environment. From 0 to 6 months, the child experiments new objects or toys by putting them in his or her mouth. Then looks in the direction of fallen objects. So if naay matagak, makabantay mo nga, mo ano din ang bata, matanaw din if dito ang nahulog. Then from the 7 to 12 months, looks to partially and fully hidden objects. 13 to 18 months, a child can now tell whether something is hot or cold and hands over one object when asked. Like for example, tagaan mo ang bata o milk. At this stage mo, kuan ang bata if too much init, like mo reklamo na siya nga, wala na siya sa kuan, "Mommy, this is too hot," or "Mommy, I don't like this one, it's too cold." So, yeah, so mao na siya ang may tabo from 13 to 18 months. Then pwede na sa nimo mo na ka sa bata nga, kanang, "Baby, can you please give me the glass?" So at this stage is musunod na ang bata, but those are just one object mahand niya. Then from 19 to 24 months is makakuha ng bata, maka-identify na if asa sa mga butang ang shorter, longer, or near of two items. So ano na ang bata nga, "Look, Mommy, this teddy bear is bigger than what I have in home." So mao na siya ang may tabo during the 19 to 24 months. The next one is the higher ordered mental abilities, or the cause-effect relationship. So the child can now understand the cause and effect relationship. So from 0 to 6 months, acts on an object to achieve an objective. So pareha ganun na sa akong example nga katong dal. So naka-realize ang bata nga ang dal nilihok tungod kay iyang gisikaran. Then from the 7 to 12 month, uses an objects to get something he or she wants. So kato akong sang example ganin na nga makaanat sa batang brighta niya, uy kay na siya dili niya makabuot, so iyang gi kuhaan niya og kuhit or ni tungtong siya og bangko para makuha to niya ang ginahan. Then from the 19 to 24 months, the child starts to ask why questions and understands reasons behind safety daily practices, reasons behind safety rules and practices at home, and knows where to return his or her things. So I've watched a video of Mommy Julie sa TikToker na siya then. So ang iyang kid is usually kanang magsige og question na, "Why man, Mami, anong need man nato buhaton?" So for that kanang ma-learn sa bata nga kinahanglan na buhaton, like for example kanang panghugas kamot, "Mami, why do I need to wash my hands before or after eating?" So kay nangutan naman ng bata why, so as ginikanan imo na siyang tubagon. So dira makita sa bata ang reason nga nung importante ay mag-wash siya sa kamot before and after meal. Then for the memory, we have the episodic and the semantic memory. So the first one is the episodic. So this is the memory for experiences. So a child is able to recall people he has met, events, or places he has been to. So 0 to 6 months. So a child reacts in recognition to someone he or she has met several times but who does not live in his or her home. So kanang ganing mo anatang ang bata is mangilak kay muhilak siya if dili familiar niya ang noun sa kabata, but then suga siya mukatawa or mungisi siya maayo if ang nagkugos niya or ang nagkupot niya is kaila siya. So from 13 to 18 months, a child reacts in recognition of a familiar place beside his or her home. So dadon na nimo ang bata, like for example sa park, mo smile siya kay dito na siya, kakuan siya nga. Dili naman ko gikan mami, di ba nakaali na ko. From 19 to 24 months, child is brought somewhere and correctly recalls having been there before. So mo to siya. Makakuan ng batang ala, dili naman ko gikan, so mo nang makakuan siya, makatawa siya or mo smile siya. Then the next one is the concept-based knowledge or the semantic memory, where the child is able to store verbal information in short and long-term memory from 19 to 24 months. So, ang bata is makabantay mo ka ng sige niya o ka ng tinanaw ka ng mga nursery rhymes ka ng iyan na ng magham or iyan na sundon ang tuno sa nursery rhymes nga iyang ginahan, as well as ma-memorize niya ang gestures sa mga action songs nga iyang gitanaw. Then the higher ordered mental abilities or the creative thought, so the child is able to generate new ideas or concepts or new associations between existing idea or concepts. So from 19 to 24 months, so diri is maka-enjoy na ang bata nga kanang mag-play og manipulative toys like building blocks, mag-create siya og mga buildings. So mo na siya nga creative thought. Then uses toys or sub-objects as symbols in a play and use the same toy as objects in more than one way. So, ini ang bata dili. Mo na ni siya nga. La, sige, na siya kanang kuha na siya kanang dollhouse. Sa dollhouse ang term dili. Oh, dollhouse. Ang atubangan iyang gihimong kuan, iyang gihimong lutuanan. Ang likod iyang gihimong ilisanan sa Barbie. Though isa ra siya, kanang kuan lang siya, simple lang unta. Iya lang gi-divide kay para na ako noy kuan kanang para na ako no siya daghan nga room para sa iyang Barbie. So the language learning, when our parents and teachers and caregivers talk more to children and ask many questions, they create more stimulating language environment for their children. So katong sa kong gingon nimo nga atong sa video nga akong gitan-aw atong nga si Mami Julie kay ang iyang anak is ibalo siya like atong nga time tantrums sa iyang anak, ibalo siya nga nagtantrums ang bata, but then ang iyang gibuhat is that she keep on asking like first question nga iyang gi-ask yung anak ng how are you feeling, tubag ang bata nga I'm frustrated mommy, why are you frustrated, tubag sa ang bata. So that's actually a good thing to do kay at least aside sa ma-express sa bata ang unsa iyang ginahan niya express or unsa iyang emotions, actually maka-help siya nga ma-develop ang cognitive development sa bata kay mas makuan man niya kanang mas mag-give gani siya og reason nganong kana man iyang na-feel. And that's all for the cognitive development of infants and toddlers. Thank you, Miss Cambia.